I'd like to call the meeting of the Beaufort County Board of Education Finance Committee to order. It's December 5th, 2024. It is 1 p.m. in the District Educational Services Center, Conference Room E in Beaufort, South Carolina, and also remote hybrid video conferencing. Are we aligned with the county channel?
YouTube.
Okay, we're fine. The first item on the committee members here, myself, Chair, and Mr. Earl Campbell, and
Ms. Hay is on.
And Ms. Hay is online as well. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Rise with me, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
and to the
and the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty,
and
justice for all.
justice for all.
I have to ask for everybody's patience with me. I again forgot to put my hearing aids in when I left, and so if you'll speak a little louder, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Next item is the approval of the agenda. We need to make a couple of changes. We're going to move the presentation of the annual audit results to right after the approval of the committee meeting minutes. And we are going to remove the monthly Board of Education budget report until next meeting. Would you make that motion, sir? Motion's been made. Ms. Hay, would you second the motion?
Yes, seconded.
Right? It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Hay, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the November 14, 2024 meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Mr. Campbell made the motion to approve the minutes. Ms. Hay,
Seconded.
been seconded. Any discussion?
My only concern is those meeting minutes aren't available in Diligent.
I didn't.
She said they're not available in Diligent. You cannot say I can pull them up so that you can see them.
Yeah, let's pull them up.
Well, I won't be able to read them, so I will be abstaining from the vote.
All right. You are right.
Pardon me?
She's right. What's been put in there is the agenda and not the minutes. The December 5th Finance Committee meeting agenda was put in there by mistake and not the minutes.
Okay. You're gonna bring it up?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, there we go. The minutes are shown. Ms. Hay, do you have any corrections or additions, deletions?
She was absolutely that
No,
meeting.
they're difficult to read. I can't really read them on a small device, even when Robin shows them on the screen. Usually I follow along in Diligent or have read them prior to the meeting, but since they weren't available, I had not been able to do that.
Okay, well, what we'll do is we will push the approval of those minutes off until the next meeting.
That would be wonderful.
Okay, we'll take care of that. Is that all right with you, Mr.?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Okay, next item on the agenda is
Public comments.
presentation of the annual audit. Oh, I'm sorry, public comments. Mr. Miller? Mr. Miller is here for public comments. And you can show the clock. Okay, so
Okay.
go right ahead.
Thank you much. I've attended many couple of these finance committee and many of the entire board. I feel like everybody's been, or I've been heard by all parties. Finance committee, the board, even the administration of the school. So I'm a little uncomfortable. I want to continue and be a part of this. But I'm a little uncomfortable what to say. My background, I have a pharmacy degree, an advanced degree that's in pharmacy and business. And my background, I was hired by a pharmaceutical company. I was kind of what I call a higher level of middle management. And my job was to provide data to the very top executives of around the subjects of marketing and sales and showing opportunities and where to go next. That's been my background. And I think I've provided you all with data. When it comes now, you folks and the district administration have to react on that. In my position, from time to time, I was asked for opinions. So from now on, as I speak to you all, it will be opinions because I think you have the data. And my opinion of one of the concerns of why bands aren't performing up to what's average for the rest of the state is there is no textbook, there is no standard, what I call a curriculum. And so every band director, every principal can kind of do what they want. And this is especially, I see that as an opportunity to be flexible for high school bands. But for middle school bands, they have to have something to guide them, to teach them how to read music and play their instruments. And with that, I'm down to the last few seconds. Excuse me, I've got a commitment in Beaufort or in Bluffton at 3 o'clock, but I hope you understand where I'm going from now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming and your comments.
And I appreciate everything that everybody is doing.
Okay. Next item is the presentation of annual audit results. Ms. Crosby.
Yes, sir. So this afternoon, we have Brian Nicholson with Malden and Jenkins. He's with us virtually, and he has a brief presentation to do. And then I have a summary of our operating expectation on this topic to round out the discussion. And then we'll be available for any comments and questions you may have. So with that, Mr. Nicholson.
He went away.
All right.
He was there.
Okay. Well, I can start with my section.
Okay.
And then hopefully you'll come on just while we're speaking and have that information available. So operational expectation and 6. There's a phone, random phone number.
Yes.
That's it.
Is she?
I'm trying to speak.
Sorry, here it comes again. There you go.
Mr.
Hey,
Nicholson,
yes, sorry about that. I lost internet there for a second. So are we ready to go over the board presentation?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, again, I apologize. So I've got a few slides here. And we'll just start with the agenda. So we'll go over the engagement team, the audit timeline. We'll go over some of the results of the ACFR, some financial trends, and then at the end, if there's any comments, any questions, we can go over those as well. Just to reintroduce myself, so my name is Brian Nicholson with Malden Jenkins. I was the engagement director for the school district's June 30, 2024 audit. Hope Pendergrass was the quality control review partner, and Tim Lyons was our technical support partner. On the next slide, this is just kind of an outline of the audit timeline. It's really broken up into 3 segments. Segment 1 is planning and interim procedures. Segment 2 is our year-end audit procedures, and then the delivery of the ACFR. And you'll see in segment 2 some of the various items that we look at. We'll look at the detailed general ledger, test various trial balance accounts. And then once we're done with that, we move on to segment 3, which is the quality control review and the actual delivery of the ACFR. The results of the 2024 audit. So we issued an unmodified or clean opinion over the district's June 30, 2024 financial statements. We performed our audit in accordance with government auditing standards and generally accepted auditing standards. Additionally, we had no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that were required to be reported. There were also no instances of non-compliance. On the next slide, this talks about our second report, which is our single audit report. During the year, the school district was required to undergo a single audit over 2 major programs, those being Title I and the Education Stabilization Fund, commonly referred to as ESSER. When the district expends over $750,000 in federal expenditures, a single audit is required. Since the district is a low-risk auditee, and what that means is that the district has had 2 consecutive years of no material weaknesses over internal controls and no single audit findings, we're only required to test 20% of the total federal expenditures. That being said, due to Title I not being audited in the past 2 years, we tested that one, and then to get additional coverage, we tested the Education Stabilization Fund. And similar to the independent audit report, we also had a clean opinion, no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies. These next few slides, I'm going to kind of go through just some important bullet points here. We're required to submit this information either orally or in writing. And so today we're kind of doing both. The main thing I do want to point out here is that the significant accounting policies used by the district are disclosed in footnote 1 to the basic financial statements. And then in the current year, the district was required to implement GASB Statement 100, which deals with accounting changes and error corrections. The district had an accounting change. If you're one of those to compare last year's to this year, you should notice that the food service fund, the school nutrition fund, is no longer being reported as a business type fund. This change in reporting entity now presents that fund as a governmental type fund, which has over the last few years is really the way it should be presented, just because most of the income in that fund is federal revenue driven. And then if you go to the next slide, I do want to point out that we received full cooperation from district management and their staff. This year we had an entirely new engagement team working on the district's audit. So it was one of those unique situations. While the district was a existing client, we had a new team, and so the district was new to us. And I thought Tanya and her staff did a great job. They were very responsive and with all of our requests. I thought we had a good relationship throughout the audit, and we really can't do what we need to do until the district does the legwork on the front end. So we appreciate them doing all of that to get the financial or to get the trial balances closed out and to get us the information that we need to issue our report. We issued our report, I believe it was dated November 21st, which was a little bit sooner than last year. So I was pleased with that. And the next thing I wanted to point out was at the end of our audit, we're required to get certain representations from management. It's called our management representation letter, and we have received those representations. The last thing I want to point out here before we move into the financial analysis is we are required by our professional standards to be independent of the school district, and we have maintained that level of independence. These next few slides really focus on the general fund, the main operating fund of the district. This first graph is kind of a 5-year look back from 2020 all the way up to the current year of 2024. This is the general fund balance. As of year end, fund balance for the general fund is 72.2 million, which is an increase over 2023 of about 8 million. You can see the district has had steady increases in fund balance, and we'll go over the unassigned fund balance and the percentage of total expenditures here in a minute. This just kind of outlines the change in fund balance. You'll see, as we mentioned, 7.9 million in an increase in fund balance for the general fund compared to 7.1 in 2023. And again, this just kind of outlines total expenditures and transfers versus revenues. You'll see revenues in that blue color on the graph and expenditures and transfers in the orange. And similar to the prior two slides, you'll see revenues has continued to exceed expenditures in the general fund over the last 5 years. The main thing I want to point out on this slide, so this is fund balance as a percentage of current year expenditures. The district has maintained unassigned or total fund balance for the general fund roughly around that 18 to 22% mark. The district is required to have at least 8.3% in unassigned fund balance. The state requires at least 1 month of budgeted expenditures be in unassigned fund balance. And currently the district has around 20.3%, so well over that 8.3% threshold. These last few slides are really just informational. As we mentioned earlier, the district did implement GASB 100 in the fiscal year 2024. Next year, the district will be required to implement GASB 101, which has to deal with compensated absences. And then you'll see on the next slide, we do provide free quarterly CPE. We made the decision years back when we were really getting into the governmental sector that we needed to provide this service to our clients. We've had multiple sessions over GASB 101 in this past year. Most of our CPE is tailored for financial information and financial people. However, every now and then there is a presentation that's more tailored for school boards or council members. One in particular is understanding financial information for non-financial people. So do be on the lookout. If you ever are interested in joining that, please let Tanya or myself know. We'll get you added. And with that, we would like to thank the district again. Like I said, an audit, it's an invasive process. We ask for a lot of information, and we really wouldn't be sitting here today unless the district had done such a great job this year throughout the audit process. So we do want to say thanks for that. And with that, any questions, any comments?
Hey, Ms. Haig, do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, Mr. Campbell.
No.
I see Mr. Dallas is on. Mr. Dallas, do you have any questions?
No, sir, Colonel. Thank you for asking.
Okay, thank you. Sir, I want to thank you for your report. I also must tell you that I am actually quite pleased that a different team from your firm came and looked at us. I think it's always good to have a new set of eyes looking at us and seeing things from a possibly different perspective. So that I thought was a benefit. And I appreciate your willingness to learn about us and take all the information that we've gotten. And we're obviously going to take all the insights you provided as well. So thank you, sir, for what you've done.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. You ready to move to the next item? The next item is the October 2024 Transparency Report. Here is yeah, you're doing this just to mess with me, I know. This is the monthly report. I've had a chance to go through it. I've got some questions, but I'm going to ask other committee members if they have any issues or questions with the full report. We will talk about the consolidated report after the full report. Do you have anything? Ms. Hay, do you have any issues?
No, I do not.
Okay, let me go through my notes. Right on the first page, it lists invoice 13, maintenance overtime. That's first time I recall seeing maintenance overtime on this. I might have missed it before. Who authorizes overtime?
That would be under,
That's operations, I'm sure,
operations.
but they-
Yes, sir.
Do they check with you to make sure that it's authorized? How do you ensure that that overtime is authorized?
Well, we have a few maintenance staff that are BCSD employees, but majority, I would say are contracted employees or contracted workers through, ABM.
Okay,
So I do not see or approve any overtime payments, but we have a contract for a certain dollar amount that they must adhere to and cannot exceed at year end. So they
Okay.
have to work within that
okay.
budget.
Okay, Mr. Dallas, I saw that again. It was the first time I've seen an overtime voucher. For operations committee, that may be something you might want to ask is what is the authorization procedure to have overtime be expended?
Absolutely, Colonel. Have it noted, sir. Thank you for highlighting that.
Okay, thank you. Next item is invoice number 639. This kind of also has an impact on operations. It is the Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority for Ladies Island Middle School. And it is billed at $7,016.12, which is about 6 times what other schools of that size are billed for. And that's probably something operations ought to look at and see why the Water and Sewer Authority had that much of a increase in that particular school.
Yeah, Colonel, I can give you a brief overview. We had some leaks in certain schools. I think Ladies Island was one of them. But above that, we've suggested that operations has a representative to meet with finance and go over this report so that those questions can be answered before we come into either the ops meeting or the finance meeting. But I'll follow up on that and try to make sure that's happening.
All right, thank you, sir. Number 1103. 1103 is Dominion Energy. This is another one for operations. Dominion Energy bill for May River High School. $64,986.64. It is our biggest school. But that bill is much, much higher than Bluffton High School. Our second biggest was $43,444. That's at least a 20% more power usage. And this is a continuing thing with that school, that I see more maintenance required at that school than about any other. And maintenance costs are high. And now I've seen energy costs are high. And I'm just wondering how long we're going to have to live with this turkey who keeps costing so much money?
Well, I know that there are some plans to address some of the things that have been incorporated from the construction to lower the energy costs. And I think last night in the operations meeting, we talked about having a real rigorous review of energy, as we've done with HVAC. But this is just a totally amazing number. And so I think the two groups getting together before the ops meeting and before the finance meeting will help us have those answers before either meeting occurs. But I'll follow up on that as well.
Thank you, sir. Next item, last item is number 1502. Is Food Lion sodas, improvement of instruction, $9.98. So if I was an auditor, I would come to you and say, explain that to me. What is the process to approve a $9.98 expense? Is this a voucher? It looks like it is. And how is it authorized by? This is from St. Helena Elementary. Now, I understand with P-card what our process is. This doesn't appear to be P-card.
This is a P card purchase.
This is a P-card.
I am pulling up the documentation right now.
Okay.
To verify.
The account number, just while she's doing that, is in a professional development, so
Mhm.
my sense is that it would be refreshments for a professional development that was happening there.
Minor, that's not. Mr.
Smith.
So,
Mr. Smith's hands up as well.
okay, we'll get Mr. Smith here in a minute. Don't we allow petty cash?
No, so,
We don't allow petty cash. So the only thing that they can do, and we are tracking a $9.98. Is that a good use? Is there, let me put it to you this way. I went through a forensic audit. And it was a forensic audit that had about dispersal of fuel. And this was for tank units, and we burn a lot of fuel. And I saw a invoice that said, I think it was $21.50 for fueling. And I said, what in the world is that from? And I found out that it was just a Humvee that needed to get a little bit of fuel and stop by our big 2,500 gallon tanker to get the fuel. And he put it in his logbook. And it got, from his logbook, it got sent out. And an auditor was looking at that and said, well, who authorized that? And why don't you have an account for minor dispersals rather than what they did is normally it was a 2,500 gallon tanker went to the end fuel tank in the ground that was filled by a 5,000 gallon tanker periodically, but there was probably 25,000 gallons sitting in the ground. And it would draw it out, and the only thing they kept track of was the 2,500 gallons that were issued. But yet, the auditor came in and said, wait a minute. What about this 25 gallons? So, is there a way to simplify this so that without losing, I'm not saying losing control of the P card, but what I see here is, as I understand it, tell me if I'm wrong, the process is I have to first ask permission to use the P card. So let's say that's the bookkeeper. Say, can I have permission to use the P card to go down to the Food Lion this is, oh, by the way, the Food Lions and Ladies Island and the schools and, St. Helena. And I want to buy a case of Coke. And they say, oh, yea, verily, you can do this. Somebody says that. Who says that? The principal?
The principal most likely requested the refreshments. They were having an instructional review that day.
Okay,
So a series, we have a sign-in sheet of a massive amount of individuals and timeframes,
and there it
which
is.
we require documentation to support.
Good grief.
So, any food or refreshments, and if there are, it has to be for a meeting. It can't
Okay.
be just
No,
for the break room.
I fully understand.
But that is the purpose of the P card.
Yeah.
It's to help, the initial, when we began the program back in the mid 2000s, it was intentionally put in place to handle very small items like this. It grew to something larger because of the rebate program, so we're
Yeah.
able to add utilities and other
Okay.
things on it. But this is the reason why we have a
Okay.
P card, so we can do small purchases, but we have to ask, we require permission to make a purchase from another person,
Yeah.
so that it's not one person making the
Got
decision
it.
about it.
Got it?
We want that.
Makes absolute sense.
To piggyback off that, to answer your question, we allow them when they put in their request, doesn't have to be for the single purchase. So if they're purchasing for a whole event, so they also purchase Chick-fil-A with, in addition to sodas for the instructional review. So they were going on multiple trips that day, not just running to
Okay.
Food Line. So, and we allow them to do that because we run into issues where if a bookkeeper needs to purchase, popsicle sticks for a family parent craft night that they're doing. Well, if they go to Walmart and Walmart is out.
Yeah.
Well, then they have to run to the other Walmart or they have to run to
Okay.
a Target or a Publix or something. They can list multiple places that they're going that day
Okay.
under their request, as long as it's all in one related event, which allows them to liquidate against all that in the
Okay,
system.
and that brings up another issue about the every Amazon, we have hundreds of Amazon purchases. We have hundreds of Staples purchases. And so every one of those also has to go through that same process.
Yes, and the purchases have to be related. You can't just put in a blanket PO for Amazon for the year
Right.
or for Staples. If the items on the request changes,
Mhm.
then you have to put in a new request because you need to seek approval to keep from being ambiguous about what you're purchasing, so it's always clear.
Okay, my only concern and reason I'm bringing this up is this is labor intensive. And that kind of concerns me. It's dollars chasing pennies. Okay? And I don't want to lose, I certainly don't want to lose accountability. I certainly don't want to do that. But I'm also concerned, increasingly concerned about what our staff has to do to get simple things done. And sometimes we get so tied up in simple little things that the big things that are kind of more important get short-shifted. And so I guess I'm searching for what is the balance between security, accountability, responsibility being very clear, and efficiency. That's my conundrum. And I don't know, I wish I had a solution. But increasingly, I've been told by other board members that they are concerned about workload at the schools. And as teachers doing reports and administrators doing reports and bookkeepers doing reports. And if there's any way we can kind of smooth things out or take away some of this burden. So, Mr. Smith, do you have a comment? Mr. Smith, your hand is up. There you go.
Yes, sir. I was going to say, I was gathering my thoughts after listening to some of your comments just now. My question is, and they kind of answered it. Was the purchase justifiable? And it sounded like it was. Most actually, I was going back to your other comment, but I'm still processing. I won't have a comment this time. I'm just going to process it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dallas, your hand is up.
Yes, sir, Colonel. Thank you. Sorry about that. I just spoke with Mr. Otting, and those intended meetings have not taken place as of yet between the two groups. I take responsibility for that. I know everybody is busy, both groups, but Mr. Otting has committed that he will reach out to finance. So if Ms. Crosby and yourself would just be aware that that meeting, it will be taking place or will be requested very briefly. And Mr. Otting will review those items that have operational coverage. And that way we'll have answers to those excellent questions that you're posing before either Ops or Finance Committee meets. And that way the answer will be immediate because you're raising some excellent questions. So thank you. Just want to give you an update, sir, and the rest of the committee.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, let's move to the this transparency report. This is a kind of a different one. This has the major invoices like Ajax Building Company, which is new, and it shows how we spent $369,256.94, and then it's got what we pay for Buford Jasper Academy, Brightview, very interesting. But when I go through this big thing, I wish there was some way I could just see the little things and the big things out, but the reason I'm bringing all this up is this is my last meeting on as a member of the Finance Committee. I will probably continue to observe the Finance Committee, but coherent governance says that you shouldn't have one person specialize on a board too much. You should get other people involved. And so I've been the chair of this committee now for on this committee for 6 years and the chair for 4. And it's time, we got some new board members, we got other board members, and I'm trying to figure out how to transition a new person and new board member. Mr. Campbell's leaving. I don't know if Ms. Hay wants to be on it again, but to try to transfer how to provide adequate oversight for this very, very complex process that we go through that is necessary. We are not going to have 300 weighted blankets ordered without somebody knowing about it. We are not going to build a $800,000 playground without a board knowing it. Now, and I'm not going to say who does that. That's what this keeps us from doing. So that's why I'm asking these questions and trying to figure out how we can do this. Now, the second part of this consolidation report, I think this is very, very valuable for the whole board, because this really shows what was spent last year. For example, last year, we spent more on energy from Dominion Energy. Last year, we spent $663,000, and this year, in October, we spent $613. Hey, that's good news. Now, it could be the weather was calmer or whatever. But that's the kind of thing that I need. MB Con, now we can see MB Con, we paid them $2 million 0.3. Last year, we're paying them 161,000. So that shows that our contracts and our referendum are tapering off, okay? Then I see some school board association trust total went up about almost $200,000. Okay, cost of doing business. But that's something we should know about. Thompson Turner's going down because of the same thing. And then here's one that kind of got my attention. Adams Outdoor Advertising. This is, I believe, for the
In the safety billboards.
the poster board, the
Yes.
things up on the highway and so on about the
MSAP grant.
yeah, and
the,
that's a grant. And then we got Catapult Learning, interventionalists at several locations, a contract, 592,000. Was that any federal or was that?
They, give me just 1 second. I'll tell you, sir, exactly what it is.
We're gonna look it up.
Okay. And Tyler Technology time clock. I saw the time clocks being put in.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this is actually Kaylee's area, but I'm gonna speak to it while she's looking that up.
Yeah.
Tyler, our software, time clock software system called NovaTime, which was a separate software from any others that we had, recently went out of business and merged with a Chronos or something else. In the interest of, we had no choice but to make a change, and so we chose to go out to bid. We went out to bid a few months ago. We had a cross-section committee, RFP committee made up of multiple departments and including school staff, and unanimously chose a company, a module called Executime, which happens to be a module of Tyler Technologies or Munis. So now the main problem we were having with the time clock system was the import feature was not working properly. In this system, we don't have an import. It's inside of Munis. So all of the data is put in.
It goes right in.
It goes right in, and we'll have no issues with importing or exporting. So we'll be implementing that over the next several months. We've already signed a contract and are over the holiday break or in the month of December, they're replacing the time clocks that are on the walls of all of the schools. We have 1 or 2 of those kiosk stations at each school and here a few here at the district office. And then we will be fully implemented, proposed to be by the mid to late spring. So we are moving to a new time clock system.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, here's the funding sources for capital. Other 3 of 3. And 1 in general.
What
fund.
was
So state.
Catapult Learning?
That is an instructional services product. I don't claim to know a whole lot about the services that are provided, but it is at Well Branch Elementary, Well Branch High, Robert Smalls, Well Branch Middle, Ladies Island Middle, St. Helena, and Shanklin. Partially funded with some ATSI and CSI funding, others from the general fund and EIA funding that we have from state aided classrooms. So we can get some more information on that. That would probably be under the instruction of Dr. Mella Lee.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, this is something that I'm seeing this, that we talked about the interface between operations and finance. We also, this is an interface between operations and the deputy superintendent or ISD or whatever. And my issue is how are we not focusing and coordinating between our different major branches here in the district? So you know,
I have a staff member who signed off on this, and Miss Matson.
Right.
She was unable to be here today.
Okay.
Due to an illness, but I can assure you that she knows all about this.
Okay. All right. All right.
So I can gather some information about it and her communications with the instructional staff and get that back or bring it back to the next meeting as well. So,
Yeah,
but that has two of the three funding sources are special revenue on that purchase. And so, and Ms. Matson manages all of the special revenue funds, so she will know all about it.
you see, that's one of the powers of these kinds of reports. Because it brings that up. I mean, for a board member, I hadn't heard about that. We haven't been briefed about that. And so here we find it in a report and we're saying, well, how come we don't know? This is not a minor thing. This is a almost $600,000 thing.
Yes, and it did go through procurement, sir, but on the procurement requirements, unless it's 1% of the operating
Understand.
budget, we wouldn't bring it up there. But I'm so glad that we are able to put it on the transparency report so that you can see it, so.
Okay, got it. Let's, unless there's any questions, we'll move on. The next item on the agenda. OE 6-1 to 6-8, Ms. Crosby.
Yes, sir. So this follows in line with the audit presentation earlier. It's part of, I guess. So I have OE6 and half of it is financials and the other half is either budget or debt. So it doesn't fit well within one single OE. So I split it in half. And today I am going to request a motion of the committee, and the proposed motion is on the front page of the OE near the bottom.
Yep.
And also right below that is a link to the annual comprehensive financial report, also known as ACFR. So it's just an acronym that is used by the governmental accounting standards. And actually I brought a copy. I can't compete with your transparency report there, but mine is two-sided and it's 211 pages long. And this was our ACFR this year, and it has been posted on the website as of Tuesday before Thanksgiving. We were able to post it there along and submit all of that information to the State Department of Ed before our deadline of December 2nd. And so we're happy to say that we were able to do it early this year. We met all the requirements of the State Department. There are about 6 other reports that are required to be sent, and they've all been sent as well. And we have an extension on one more. So we're working on wrapping that up. So again, so as part of OE 6.1 through 6.8, it does say that we must do an external audit. We have to have an approved audit firm that's approved by a list that's with the State Department of Education. We did get a clean audit opinion for the 23rd consecutive year. No audit findings. And then this last year's report did receive it. We received the award for financial reporting for the 34th consecutive year. So Ms. Phillips here will be, as we wrap up the final report to the state. Right after that, we'll have a report up to the GFOA submitting this document, this year's financials, so that we can get the 35th consecutive year of awards in financial reporting, or at least aim to be. We did get a Moody's rating affirmed of AA1 this year. So that is part of your OEs as well. We are having 2 credit ratings coming up because we are issuing bonds soon. It's the first round of long-term bonds for the new referendum. So credit rating meetings will be happening before Christmas with S&P and Moody's. So we'll get 2 ratings since the bond is so large. It is recommended that we get both S&P ratings from both major rating agencies. Just quick financial highlights. As Mr. Nicholson stated, we did increase the fund balance, and we did discuss it a few times with the board before we finalized the year end. It was $7.9 million increase in fund balance. That did hold us basically steady with our fund balance percentage, so that if we had not increased fund balance, our fund balance percentage would have fallen. And that would have not looked favorably to our rating agencies. So we made the very wise decision to raise that to a level that is consistent with the expenditure budget. We have a fund balance policy, and we did maintain above the minimums. And so depending on what you calculated, which year's budget, I think the auditors calculated it against the FY24 budget. I calculate it based on what the policy says of next year's budget. So my percentage is a little lower at 19.1%. Mr. Nicholson's presentation showed 20.3, but it's just a difference of 1 year's budget versus another in that calculation. And also I report it as an unassigned fund balance. We do have about $3 million a year in prepaid expenses. So at year end, there may be travel in the summer for professional development for teachers or principals or whomever. And if we pay for the travel in June, but they're not traveling until July, it's considered a prepaid expense. So if it's $1,000, then it goes as an assignment of fund balance.
Exactly.
So that's the difference between what's assigned and what's not assigned. Unassigned just means it's not committed for anything currently. We did prepare 2 reports for Minority Women Business Enterprise. We did the last one recently on October 17th, which is a very favorable report this year, we're happy to say. And we faithfully present our 4-quarter reports and post those on the website as well, which include all of the capital details of every capital project that we are undertaking, both referendum and 8%. And then finally, all of this information is presented. Some of these items are required by the state to be presented on our websites for transparency purposes. Others, we do it voluntarily. The P-card monthly billing statement is required. The ACFR is required. The budget is required. And a summary of our transparency purchases as well. So others are our discretion, and we do post those every month. So in our position, we believe that it is our position that we have met the requirements of this OE. And so with that, I'll be happy to either take questions or entertain motion.
Mr. Campbell, do you have any questions or comments?
No, no.
Okay, Ms. Hay, do you have any questions or comments?
Just thankful for Mrs. Crosby.
Thank you.
Mr. Dallas, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, sir, Colonel. I would just like to say this is an award-winning financial department within the district, and we're very thankful for that. And at the same time, one of the things that sustains greatness is to look where there may be potential risks that aren't hitting radar yet. And I think your questioning helps us sort of pivot and see within our own organizations where those might lie, and try to head them off. So just wanted to say well done by the finance group in your 6 years of tenure and 4 years of leadership. And we're going to try to make sure we amp up and meet the standards that have been set elsewhere in the school district. So thank you all.
Mr. Smith, do you have any comments on this?
At this time, I don't think it's time for announcement.
Data Carr is on as well as Ingrid.
Oh, yeah, Kate, Dr. Carr, do you have any comments?
I don't. I appreciate all the work that's been put into all of the reports and all of the oversight. It's been a great learning experience. Thank you.
Ms. Boatwright, do you have any comments?
said no.
Okay, all right. We need a motion, we have a motion to recommend to the full board for approval of OE 6-1 through 6-8.
Make that motion.
Okay, motion's been made. Ms. Hay, would you second that
Seconded.
motion? Motion seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Hey, I.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Excellent report. And we'll bring that up at our next board meeting. Next item is the budget book, FY 25 budget book.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Crosby.
So we have recently completed a very comprehensive budget book for the fiscal year 25. It too is about 200 or so pages. And I want to say that Jennifer Hamblin and her budget team of two others who aren't here today, I want to give them a huge amount of credit with the support of the staff that's here and others to accomplish this. And this too, we will be going out for an award for a distinguished budget presentation award as well. So we have received it for several years, then did not participate due to the level of workload for a few years. And last year we got it for the first time in several years. So this would be the second consecutive year if we are awarded it this year. Ms. Hamlin was unable to be here today due to a family commitment. And I think she's listening in online, and she said she'd communicate with me if she needed to answer any questions, but I said, I've been doing this a while, so I think I can handle it unless there's any really hard questions. So anyway, the budget at a glance for this year is up, and this is the general fund operating budget that we're referring to at the moment, 359.2 million. And we had specific strategic expenditures. We just wanted to provide a brief summary for you here. One pager to provide as a reminder of the things that were in the budget that we dealt with almost a year ago. So we're already ramping up for next year's budget. So we did a $2,500 addition to the teacher salary, bringing the first year starting teacher salary to $51,066. And so a series of other increases. We raised the step increase, the step maximum from 27 to 28, which was a very good move because the state then mandated to go to 28 years, and we are already there. So that worked out very well. 3% cost of living increase, salary supplements for critical needs positions, and particularly in special education. We had a lot of benefit increases, state mandated health care, and paid parental leave. And then we continued on with the locality supplement that teachers and staff were already receiving. So some of the major investments in our staffing were $12 million for certified staff increases, about 7.9 for other employee increases, and $4 million for support additional positions for supporting schools and special populations. There was no increase in millage in either the operating millage or the debt service millage. And so we were very fortunate to be able to do that. And so we will be coming up, our next item is actually the FY 26 budget, which we'll be talking about. But I did provide a link here in this document for the budget book of fiscal year 25, which is on the website. And so you can use that hyperlink to move straight to that document and see the results of the work that we've done and that we have applied for the GFOA award for budget reporting. So I just want to make you aware that that's there. There's a lot of great information in it. It's a large document. But it has a lot of really valuable information. So that concludes my report.
Okay, I'm going to ask committee members if they have any questions, and then you've got some questions online, an email from Ms. Boatwright, and I'm going to ask her to bring that up. You have anything, Mr. Campbell? Ms. Day, do you have any issues or questions on this?
No,
Okay. Mr. Dallas, do you have any questions or issues?
No, sir. No, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, do you have any questions?
Not this time.
Okay. Ms. Boatright, would you like to ask Tanya your questions?
Can you guys hear me now?
You can.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, so it sounds to me that this was a recap of the previous budget, not a look forward to what's coming down the pike in the spring.
That's
Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
we just.
When I read, my questions still generally stand, but now they're less important since it's more retrospective. I was looking at if these were what we were talking about for the spring, because what's happened in the past when we've done budget since I've been on the board is, you know, we kind of get it at first reading without really knowing exactly what's coming down in the budget. So it makes it a little harder to ask those questions. So my interpretation of this document was that it was for looking forward into this budget cycle. So really my questions don't exactly apply unless we're going to be doing something similar. We're staying the course with the next budget cycle. Because you said this one represented a 12% increase, but the next one does not necessarily yet, right?
Correct. We have not, all we have done is just some minor, just basically the enrollment projections, and that's really the beginning of the process. And we built a calendar of dates, which you'll be seeing in just a moment, that we have on the agenda today. But this only represents what we did this past year, and any changes or priorities that the board may have may alter those priorities or major expenditures in some way.
So our first look at the 26 budget will be when?
So there's another agenda item that has our calendar in it.
Okay, we'll talk about them.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Boatright, you have anything else? Okay, I got it. I see it. Ms. Boatright, do you have anything else?
No, and I'm on Lebanon, so they carry on without me. It's over.
Okay, all right. Okay. So we have no other action. Oh, we do have an action to, we have a motion from the Finance Committee to recommend the full board approval.
No, sir. I don't need it.
No, we've already done that.
Yeah,
We've already done that, so we're good. All right. So the next item is the budget calendar.
Yes. Okay. So I wanted to bring before you today the budget calendar that we've developed with timelines. These are basically follow in line with the previous years that we're following the same pattern and timeline as previous years. We do realize that you get the entire, we're building the budget for, it takes 3 to 4 months time to build that information. But the real delay is the state legislative decisions. And that is imperative that we have that information in order to know what state funding we're going to have and what state mandates there will be. So those don't come out. We get updates, and the main projection that we receive on state revenue is around the 20th of April. And the other major thing that delays our ability to provide a budget even sooner is tax revenue. We must have an accurate depiction, and this one's more important, I believe, than the first, because 2/3 of our budget, our revenues, come from local tax revenue. So tax revenues are due typically January 15th. And so people are continuing to pay February. And the school district receives tax revenue information 1 month after the end of the month of collections. So at the end of January, it will take us until the end of February to receive revenues. The end of February will be the end of March. So it lags behind such that we cannot accurately calculate the value of every mill that we need. So although we're consistently working on it and loading all of the information, it does take us until the end of April to bring you the full comprehensive budget for you to be able to see. So April 25th is the date that you see the full budget. We will bring updates of information prior to that date, but we will bring the main budget then. Then we'll go into a series of public forums, both online and in person. And then we will, about a month later, we will ask for a budget certification and then go through 3 readings with county council. Council actually, county council staff actually requested that we come 2 weeks earlier to them, but it's really, there are 6 meetings that must occur at least. I assume that the board needs to see it at least 3 times for discussion. And then the council requires 3 readings of their ordinance as well. So we do try to do it as quickly as possible, but we need those 2 very important pieces of information first. So the main reason for bringing it today is that I know last year you all had a discussion in the January timeframe of priorities. So I think that I thought that this would be a good time to kind of kick off the idea that we have a budget to build soon. And so perhaps in a late January or early February meeting, we can have a discussion with the board of any priorities that they're interested in seeing in the next year's budget. I think Ms. Boatwright gave us a great kickoff to the items that she'll be looking for. And we can start the list with that and then add to it.
Okay. Mr. Campbell, do you have any questions?
No questions. What do you think that, Wendy in that?
She is not. She's at she texted me and said she regretted that she was not able to be here. She's at Hilton Head Elementary.
I was just concerned about this should be the last year we go to Palace Council, right?
No working it. No working it. Yeah, just to let you know, we had a meeting with Councilwoman Tabernick and asked her to talk to the county council and start giving us some kind of feedback on giving us authority. And she's made some contacts, she's given us some feedback. But we haven't heard from her for about 10 days, 2 weeks. And I think it's time, I'll ask Dr. Claus to reach out to her and see if there's anything new to report to the board about where we stand. Ms. Hay, do you have any issues or questions?
Sorry, my phone froze. No, I do not.
Okay. Dr. Carr, do you have any issues or questions on the calendar?
No, I'm good to go for the moment. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I do. And in terms of the things that we're focusing on, also beyond that, I would kind of like to this time to also see what you guys in terms of what are some of the need versus want, because on the balance beam sometimes we may want things, but need versus want is more priority. And I think in this district that there's a lot of things that I'm discovering that people are bringing to me. And I'm realizing that our needs versus some of the things that we're wanting in this district, and to me, that is a serious issue. In terms of being a stewards, one of the 11 members of this board, to be a steward of the people's money. I think that we should be spending more time of getting things that we need to stay afloat versus going out and getting things that we want. So that is something I will be looking forward to us taking a sharp eye on as we come up with these lists. And also, even though we don't get how much money the state is giving, that's the reason why I believe that those needs lists can come to us at some point in time, even before we get, regardless of whoever is getting how much the state or whoever is giving us, what the district actually needs in terms of what that looks like before the actual percentile comes up of how much we actually have, because that's something that we need to take a serious look at prior to I mean, to me, that doesn't matter whether we have how much the state is giving us or not, because this is what the household needs. This is how I look at it. The household you need milk, butter, you need tissue, you need toothpaste. So what do we need versus the actual what do we want in terms of, even once we get that money, how does that look in terms of building that budget? So those are things that I will be looking more for this year here coming up.
Can I say something? Thank you. Can I say something? Mr. Smith, you said you get comments from folks. Why don't you write all those comments down and present it to the next finance committee meeting?
Well, actually, Mr. Kim, I'll be honest with you, these are not just comments that they've been telling me. These are comments that they're telling people at the district office as well. So I take it kind of I believe the district that sometimes on some things they know about it, but they may say, well, we have a list. So before I bring it, I want to hear what they have, because I don't want to. It's not really my job to tell them their job. They should know what's kind of is out there. If they don't, then that brings some of concern. So there's a process in it. So how you process things is not how I'm processing that right now. I hear what you're saying, but that's not the approach that I would like. I don't think that's the best approach. So I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I want to see what's really going on. In order to do that, then you must take it. I'm not going to rush it. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Mr. Dallas wanted you to know.
Pardon me?
Mr. Dallas wanted you to know that he had a leak to
Yeah, okay. I think we're ready to move on to the next item on the agenda. And that is the presentation or the annual cost, or the FY25 cost center report, which I look forward to having. Would you like to make any comments?
I wasn't sure, I did not have a copy of the summary that you made, or Excel spreadsheet. Oh, you already made another one? So I just did what we did last year. So, which this information is all expenditures for every single school.
Yeah.
There are 59 pages, basically 1 page or so per school. And by salaries, benefits, services, supplies, and other objects, which are the required category from the State Department of Education. So this has all of the budgets for the current year. These are not actual expenditures, but they're going to be very close to what the spending for prior years is, because those needs and the salaries are all included in that budgetary expenditure amount. So
What product are you using for this? What is this from?
I export the data, pull it, I have ability to pull it many different ways by segments of the account number, and I exported it to Excel.
All right. This is wonderful, and I keep this because I do get down in the weeds, look at different schools and what they're doing. But this I can do in one snapshot. And if it's on Excel, it can be imported very easily in this format. What I would like to see, and really this side that has the high schools, the K through 8 schools, the middle school, the elementary school, and the early childhood centers. This one just has it by highest to lowest. But this is more valuable. And there's only one column that I need added to this. And I wrote it down. What it is you need to go to HR and you ask Miss Walton, for every school, take your teachers and count up the number of steps. Each teacher has a step, has a number. Add all those steps together, divide by the total number of teachers, and that gives you the steps for each school. That tells us in one place to look at, where are our most experienced teachers teaching? And I'd like to see if our most experienced teachers are teaching in our most challenging schools. But we can't tell unless we have that. But all of that together with the costs gives a board very, very clear idea. And also I can compare this report to the next, this was last year, to this year. And we can see if we're making progress or we're not making progress. But this is what a board needs. This is what a bean counter needs. And I'm kind of a bean counter and I like to have this. I like to have this as backup. But this is what I take around when I go and visit schools, when I go and talk to communities. I say, well, let's see what Port Royal Elementary, let me see what it costs. Let me show you what it costs compared to others. What the cost per student is. It answers so many questions very quickly. And it's very easy to read. So when can I get this?
Could you share that Excel spreadsheet so I can see the format of how?
I would be happy to
And I
send it to you.
Put it in that format, yes.
Okay.
You're looking for something this year, I would assume.
No,
This
no,
calendar year.
No.
We will work on it right
We're-
away
we're-
and,
It's not drop dead, gotta have right away, but it's something, before we get into budget. And we start making budget discussions, this will be very, very useful.
I can have it for you, hopefully by early January, but.
That would be,
We'll work
that
on
would
it
be
as
fine,
soon as
I will send you
Yes.
the Excel spreadsheet. Okay. That's the last item on the, well, do you have any comments on that, this piece? Ms. Hay, do you have any comments about this, this piece here?
I do not.
Okay, Dr. Carr? Any
None
comment?
at this time, thanks.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
No, sir, not this time.
Okay, all right, that's the last item on the agenda. We have future topics. Do you have any future topics?
OE 18 food service fund, food service,
OE 18
food service.
food service. Okay. All right. Do we have any other topics that were?
And our regular standard monthly stuff, that's our standard monthly stuff.
Okay, all right. You have a topic?
I do have one question. I'm not sure if it's fitting for this, because I figured that procurement when they go out for bidding the contracts. Okay, so it came to me recently in terms of that when we have like several, I think I mentioned you yesterday, when we have several contracts in terms of custodial contracts, and we have employees who's been with the district for several years, and they get these new contractors, and they can't miss any days right away, or or how's it written in the procurement, or how's it written in the what's the word?
Contracts of power.
The RFP in terms of their days and things of that nature, and also what's the procedures of RFP? Does RFP come before the board before they go out? Because from my understanding, I think that would be a good thing, because so we can also understand what's actual RFPs, what's in the RFP that is going out for bid. Because some of these are valid questions in terms of people losing days, or people losing money, because when we go for another company, they can have a total of 20 or 30 days, but because we let that company go, they lose that money, they lose those days. So how does that affect them? In are we letting the company go with those days and them not paying those contractors? I mean, so those are some interesting things, and these people who ask me these questions, like, look, even y'all may be bidding, y'all may be getting contracts at the district level. We're still taxpayers that live in this district, and so when y'all come before us for bonds and other things, we should be thought about too as well. And I was like, well, they had some real tough questions that are life decisions based upon them versus family members passing and them not having days, having a new contract company, and them not being able to actually take those days because of these issues. So these may not be things that we may face, but these are things that they are facing that does need to come before us. So so how you want to tackle that?
Yeah, that's something that it has to be in the contract. There has to be language in the contract that says, for example, if an employee has days accrued, that the company has to send that forward to the next company, and then the contract for the next company has to say you will accept that.
Right.
Going forward. But if it's not in the contract when we first sign it, we're out of luck. And I don't know that we have that and then we'll have to look at the contract to see if there is language that allows that. And if
So
not,
at the next meeting, we can bring back potentially, well, of course, if we discuss the entire contract, it may be an executive session item. I have to explore that with Ms. Cartledge, but, and this is very much a joint conversation with operations because they manage that contract and they write the scope of that contract. So we can look at bringing that back, some information back at the next meeting about days for existing BCSD staff, so that you have more information.
it's relatively simple, is to look at the existing contract, see if there is language allowing that.
I will tell you what I do know is there is existing language in the solicitation that anybody who submitted a proposal to take over part of any of the custodial groups that we had, or any of the groups in Beaufort County, had to have a competitive benefits package. That was actually one stipulation that we put in years ago, when Ms. Crosby brought that up when we went out with another company. So we made that as part of our checklist with any solicitation when we contract services, that they have to have a competitive benefits package, at least comparable to BCSD as much as possible. But I will definitely get with Randy Majors and Ms. Crosby and then talk about presenting that information to the board.
We'll get you that information. That's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if there's no objection, unanimous consent, I'd like to adjourn this meeting. No objections, meeting is adjourned, and if the team would stand by, I'd like to talk to the team a little bit.